about having conversations with two designers for a long time, for about 10 years. Really.
Yes, for a long time. And it was varied. The combinations were always varied, and we just thought the best combination would be somebody very, very contemporary with somebody who had designed in the past, so that there would be a kind of fantasy of the past speaking to the present, and the present somehow being able to address issues of the past.
So we have people like Poiré and Galliano and Alaya and Vianney. But I think after the McQueen exhibition, we wanted to focus on two women designers. With the Brooklyn transfer, we had a great Schiaparelli collection, so we decided that Schiaparelli would be one of the designers. And we felt that Mucha had the same sort of sense of provocation that Schiaparelli has, so we thought it would be a nice conversation between the two.
One of the mechanisms for transferring this sort of our understanding of what we saw in their work was actually, rather than to highlight the differences, start off with objects that appear to have a relationship and then show the differences through their own self-expression. They actually had a voice, that the designers were really speaking to us directly, so that when we see a Schiaparelli is saying, this is what I intended. When we see a Prada, it's Mucha Prada saying, oh, no. You might think that, but this is really what I was thinking when I was approaching this design solution.
So the exhibition is divided into two larger themes. One, the idea of the chic in its various manifestations, and one, the idea of the body and the various narratives that the body actually addresses. I think one of the major differences between Prada and Schiaparelli is Schiaparelli's belief that fashion is art and Prada's belief that it isn't. Prada works very closely with artists in terms of in their own field as part of her foundation, but she believes that she wants to be successful in her own right as a fashion designer. So she's never really collaborated with designers, with artists in her own field. I think she feels that in the 1930s, when Schiaparelli was collaborating with artists, there was an innocence attached to it. It was revolutionary, and in a way she did elevate fashion to art through those collaborations.
Elsa Schiaparelli fell into designing clothing, and one of the interesting parts about her biography is that she begins with a sweater, a trompe-l'oeil sweater. She sees an American man wearing it, and she thinks, this is not very pretty. In fact, it's kind of ugly. And she seeks out women who can knit it. She has an idea, and that's the idea of a false foulard that is in a jacquard weave on the sweater. And she has them make it. But it's very important for her that there's a kind of coarseness to it. She likes the fact that it isn't really refined and, by convention, beautiful. I think that's a very early clue of what makes her so provocative. Very quickly, she embraces all of the other contemporary artists. Specifically, she has an affinity for the surrealists. Dali was a great collaborator with her. He would design accessories which she would immediately integrate into her collections. Or someone like Jean Cocteau would do these sketches that were ambiguous and psychologically motivated. Two faces forming the outline, for example, of an urn. A woman with golden hair falling down the arm of a jacket. I think that she was very much a woman of her time, in that it's a period where it was no longer about the intimacy of social contact very close up. It was also the beginning of the red carpet, where a paparazzi could take a picture of you entering a restaurant. And so the boldness of the embroidery was somehow compatible with her era.
Schiaparelli collaborated very closely with Lesage, and this is an incredible tour de force of the couture. I think what's interesting about both women is even though their embroideries can be refined, there's also a coarseness to their embroideries. So even with their embroideries, there are pending notions of good taste and bad taste. And this is from a collection that Prada calls her country collection. It is actually the one time that she did an evening wear collection, specifically an evening wear collection, in which she hates evening wear. She feels as evening wear is redundant in a contemporary society. Schiaparelli was working in the 1930s primarily and focused much of her attention on the waist upwards because of restaurant dressing and the importance of being seated at the restaurant, and the idea that the attention was all about from the waist upwards.
Among the many contributions of Schiaparelli, the most influential was her extending of the shoulder line. It began because of her interest in the Belle Epoque, the end of the 19th century, where you had these voluminous sleeves and a straight shoulder line, which many of the Dadaists and Surrealists were also engaged in. You see in their collages dress forms from the period as well as fashion illustrations that are incorporated into these surrealist artworks. So she was also engaged by this. You know, it's the period before modernism, so she was very much engaged. No one appreciated this more than the American designer for MGM, costumer for MGM, Gilbert Adrian. And Adrian, funnily enough, is historically known as the man who popularizes the shoulder pads, but he was inspired by Schiaparelli. And Schiaparelli has a very charming note in her autobiographical recollection of it, where she says she comes to Hollywood and she is shown a fashion show by Adrian of her own works.
Sometimes Schiaparelli and Prada share very similar design motivations and very similar influences, as in these two pieces here, which are both inspired by the Baroque. You see the Baroque scrolls on this particular piece here, leather appliques, to a jacket that was actually worn by the Duchess of Windsor. Famously, it formed part of her wedding trousseau before she got married to the Duke of Windsor. And this particular piece here, which Prada calls her Commemoranda or her banana collection, in which she picked up on the Baroque scrolls and the sort of swirling motifs of the Baroque with pineapples and bananas, and in this collection monkeys also. But they both came from the same influences, the idea of the Baroque. This is another jacket from Schiaparelli's astrological collection. Schiaparelli has an uncle who was a famous astrologer, and many of her collections were actually autobiographical. Prada has stated that biography doesn't really feature very much into her collections. And what I like about this particular similarity is that embroidery on this particular skirt looks like a galaxy or a constellation. Again, it's just another example of Prada's application of embroidery onto fabric. Again, it's non-linear. It's something that hasn't got a narrative, whereas you see from Schiaparelli's jacket, which has the constellation, the planets, the astrological signs. It's a much more literal application of decoration from the waist upwards. And these two examples from Prada and Schiaparelli look at the idea of Art Nouveau, the influences. Again, Schiaparelli's is a rather literal translation of the Art Nouveau motifs, whereas Prada's tends to be, again, a little bit more abstract and fantastical with the fairies. It sort of combines Hieronymus Bosch with the graphics of Frank Miller, so it has a sci-fi sort of science fiction romantic sensibility to it. Schiaparelli was very well known for using buttons that were whimsical. They are one of the areas in which she focused a lot of her sort of humour and her irony. And she used all sorts of materials, plastic, wood, feathers, even butterflies. And in a way they had this effect of drawing your attention from the waist upwards, almost like a man's tie, and again was something that was very much part of restaurant dressing of the 1930s. As part of Waist Up, Waist Down, there's a smaller section which is called Neck Up, Knees Down, which focuses on Schiaparelli's focus on the head, the hats, and Miuccia's focus on the shoes. And this is Schiaparelli's iconic shoe hat, which was a design she collaborated with Salvador Dali. Schiaparelli put a lot of her whimsy and a lot of her irony into her headgear, as Prada does with her shoes. This is from her Spring 2012 collection, which was again based on sweetness and speed, and here we have a shoe that's inspired by a Cadillac. last section in the chic theme is a section called Ugly Chic, which I think is probably a theme that is closest to both Schiaparelli and Prada's heart. They're both known for upending normative conventions of beauty, and the way they do it usually is through colour. The usage of colour that are colours that perhaps aren't considered beautiful, orange, and the combinations of colour, green, orange, purple, but also prints as well. Prints was another device, another vehicle in which both Schiaparelli and Prada express ideas of good taste and bad taste. One of the sections in the larger category of the body is the exotic body, and it explores how both Schiaparelli and Prada have looked to other cultures for inspiration. Schiaparelli's influences tend to be more literal than Prada's. Her usage of the sari dress, for example, from her Stop, Look and Listen collection. And Prada's usage of non-Western influences, again, tends to be more abstract. And this particular collection was an experiment in gold. Prada always felt that by using a little gold would look bourgeois, but by using a lot of gold, again, it would challenge our expectations of good taste and bad taste. This was a look that closed what became known as a tourist collection, which was a collection that looked at Prada's take on the Grand Tour. And it's a sari dress that's actually inspired by 50s couture. So again, she's looking at the idea of non-Western cultures through the eyes of a European. In this particular case, Dior. And then the final theme in the body section is the surreal body, which looks at particularly Schiaparelli's collaborations with artists such as Dali and Cocteau. And Prada is interesting. She's not inspired by surrealism directly, but she employs the same strategies of surrealism, such as the displacement of everyday objects, playing with the idea of proportion and scale. And this is a good example of the usage of everyday objects. These are actually bottle tops. This particular dress here is going to be juxtaposed with Schiaparelli's famous lobster dress. It was, again, a print that she collaborated with Dali in the 1930s, again worn by the Duchess of Windsor. And this is an interpretation by Prada of fish scales on a dress. So again, another application of surrealistic imagery and its application in fashion. Prada often focuses her attention on the backs of women. You see another example with fur over here. Prada often looks to the natural world, particularly birds, for inspiration. She finds the idea of absolute beauty to be found within the natural kingdom. And I think in the last few collections that Prada's done, particularly in the last 4 years, it's really been a search of what she means by beauty today, what we mean by beauty today, and also the obsessions of women, such as sequins, feathers, animal prints. And I think these obsessions of women are something that Prada's explored in the last few collections, and again in a very surrealistic vein. Neither women set out in life to be designers. They came to fashion indirectly. Both women have had a huge impact on their respective eras in terms of fashion and style presentation. And I think that what's interesting is how Prada's work does very much allow an avenue into understanding Schiaparelli's work, and Schiaparelli's work also allows an avenue into Prada's work. So by putting these two women together who initially seem to have no similarities, actually educate both designers through the conversation. So even at the beginning of the whole conversation, Mrs. Prada didn't feel there was very many similarities between the two women in terms of the designs, and by the end of the process she's come full circle and felt as if there's many similarities, not just in their designs but also in their life as women. Their provocations aren't quite so extreme or quite so immediate as McQueen's. Are much more subtle, and they require a deeper understanding of visual codes, I think, than McQueen's work did. But in a way, both women were sometimes even more provocative than McQueen in terms of the way they subvert notions of good taste and bad taste in a very quiet way, but in a way that was much more, it goes deeper to the roots of ideas of taste and beauty and glamour.